Ford just killed their fully electric flagship after just 3 years on the market, saying that large electric vehicles have no near-term path to profitability, which seems short-sighted, but that's not the point of this video. What we're actually here to look at are the factors that I think led to Ford killing the car that Australia's own energy minister claimed would save the world. But spoilers, the Cybertruck is definitely not one of those factors. Surprise. Ford launched the fully electric F-150 Lightning in 2022, about a year after they first introduced the hybrid F-150 Power Boost, which is a significantly better truck that we'll talk about later, because it's really cool. On paper, the move to electrify their flagship model made sense. With the F-Series making up about 40% of Ford's sales, why wouldn't they make their most popular item even flashier and more enticing? Well, that's because they didn't really make it more enticing. See, the base Lightning cost about $10,000 more than the base regular combustion F-150, and you don't want the entry-level Lightning. Regardless of if you're buying it as a workhorse or as a status symbol, the fact is that you are paying more and getting less. But how much less? Well, the base 3.3-liter V6 gets about 700 kilometers out of a tank. That's almost all the way from Melbourne to Sydney, which is pretty good. The base model Lightning, on the other hand, only makes it half that distance on a single charge. But why is that? Well, the 98 kilowatt-hour battery is a lot heavier than the 85-liter tank is, about 650 kilos heavier. And more weight means more power to push that brutish flat face through the air as you're cruising on the highway, which is already a massive issue for this kind of truck before you slap a giant battery in it. And that heavier battery also means that you're carrying more weight before you even get your ass in the driver's seat, which is why the Lightning has a lower payload and tow capacity than every other model that Ford offers. Even better, when you do hit the limit of that smaller payload, you're asking the car to work harder, and so you get even less range out of the already pretty sad distance. And if you want the model with a bigger battery, that's another $10,000 to get an amazing 500 kilometers. Great. If you're a gearhead, just reading the spec sheet kills the sales pitch. Why would you pay more for a workhorse that does less work? But on the other hand, reviews were actually kind of positive.
It drives the same way as the other F-150s. If you're used to a big truck, it drives like a big truck. And that's actually important. It's got to feel familiar. It's got to feel like the truck you're used to.
I would personally rather have the Rivian. So this is very good.
Well, positive, except for the same flaw that everyone pointed out.
288 miles, which isn't brilliant.
My only question going in was about range.
The base model sucks and the range is pathetic, regardless of how good it is to drive, and apparently it's damn good to drive. But at the time, other fully electric trucks were more expensive. The 2022 Rivian R1T started at nearly twice the price, and other brands were also more expensive. Most of them were offering a similar distance per charge, a lot of the same bells and whistles, so what gives? What made the F-150 in particular flop so hard that Ford had to take her out back and put her down? Well, it's a little more abstract than just, was the car good? Like other yank tanks of its ilk, the F-150 is deeply connected to the image of traditional masculinity. The ferocious roar of a fuel-hungry engine blitzing down the road like a gigantic steel beast is a core part of the image that professional tradesmen, enthusiastic off-roaders, and aspirational compensators are looking to evoke when they buy a vehicle like this. It's not just because it's marketed that way by Ford themselves, but because of the cultural touch point that the F-150 has come to represent for a lot of people. It's a symbol of America, of hard work, of gritty ruggedness. Electric vehicles, on the other hand, they're not really aligned with that image, are they? So when you take the F-150, the truck that represents a very specific idea of American masculinity, and you distort that image by removing the engine that's at the core of that symbol, well, you gotta work pretty hard to sell people on what comes across as a perversion of that symbol. Electric vehicles can be great workhorses, but unlike the F-150, electric trucks haven't established themselves in the cultural consciousness. They're too new, too untested, too unfamiliar. If you go up to a random person and ask them what they think of when you say electric vehicle, they're probably gonna say that they thought of Tesla or BYD, particularly here in Australia, where BYD has a pretty strong presence. Neither of those brands have a strong cultural connection to the same elements that the F-150 does. People think luxury, elegance, techie, futuristic, not rugged, tough, powerful. That's not to say that these vehicles can't be. We just looked at the Foton Tunland V9 and found it to be a very interesting offering that costs a lot less than some of the competition, including Ford's options. But it's not what people immediately think of. So when you take the image of an ultimate American workhorse like the F-150 and combine it with what is kind of perceived as the opposite, it isn't really going to resonate with your existing base of customers. And so you're going to have to work harder to sell it to them. That's also why less established brands like Rivian have had more success with hybrid and electric trucks. Less brand history means less association with existing stereotypes, more freedom to explore new territory and a different target market that isn't so locked into one particular image or idea. But the other big issue is infrastructure, kind of. If you're the sort of person to buy a yank tank like the F-150 as a status symbol, the 230-mile range is probably not that big of an issue compared to if you wanted to use it as an off-roading toy. For the daily drivers, charging it up at home every night is probably going to be just fine. But for anyone that's driving long distances or are based in more remote areas that lack EV infrastructure, why the hell would you pay more for this? All of these shortcomings aside, it's not like Ford is entirely killing everything electric. They're just not going fully electric at the moment. I mentioned the hybrid F-150 power boost at the start of the video, and that's because people adore the damn thing. It's still electric motors doing the driving, just with a much smaller battery that's then supported by a combustion generator to keep it charged. That means you can do your day-to-day grocery shopping and school runs just on the electric battery, but when it comes to long trips and heavy loads, you can rely on the combustion generator to keep you going for over 1,200 kilometers. It's cheaper than the Lightning and can actually do all the workhorse stuff without shredding through your battery in a couple of hours. There's also the plug-in hybrid Ford Ranger, which has been pretty well received so far. Unlike the F-150 Power Boost, the Ranger has a hybrid drivetrain, so it actually swaps between the electric motors doing the driving and then the combustion engine doing the driving, rather than just using the combustion generator to power the electric battery. Pretty cool stuff, and also pretty reasonably priced. Aside from their utes, Ford is talking about focusing on hybrid vehicles and smaller EVs in the future, and I think that's just the right move. If you're curious about hybrid trucks like the F-150 Power Boost, then you should check out our video on the Foton Tunland V9S that I mentioned earlier. It's damn impressive for how little you're paying, but there is a small catch that some people will absolutely hate. I'm Josh from The Current Car, and I'll see you next time.